Your magic, White Rabbit, has left its writing on the wall. We follow like Alice and just keep driving down the hole.
You know, classic Disney films always had scary-looking characters when we were kids. Just like Snow White's The Witch and Fantasia's giant devil Chernabog. But Alice in Wonderland doesn't have scary characters. Still, I think the old classic stories in Disney films always have things more to them than they appear to be. They could be subliminal, could be meaningful, or it could be coincidental. Whether it's the development of the story or the meaning behind it, all we know is that it is not as innocent as Disney made it to be. And that's the consequence of getting older. Here we'll break down one of the infamous children's bedtime stories. This includes both the classic Disney cartoon and Tim Burton's live action. Alice in Wonderland is much bigger than just a story. It's everything that brought us to where it's at. The Mad Hatter, the White Rabbit, the message behind the story, and the ugly side of writing it. Yeah, we're going to explore all of that by doing what Alice did. Following the rabbit. This is Films Unchained. Down the dark rabbit hole. Disney's 1951 animated version of Alice in Wonderland, described by Rotten Tomatoes, was a good introduction to Lewis Carroll's classic. Alice in Wonderland boasts some of the Disney canon's most surreal and twisted images. The story was just about young Alice being bored as hell and she took a nap. This led to chasing the White Rabbit and falling down the dark hole, leading to one giant acid trip. A bottle to drink made her shrink, one cookie bite made her grow to a substantial height. When she cried, she flooded the entire room. This stopped when she drank a sip from the bottle to shrink at a certain height. That's where she went to Wonderland, where she met Tweedledee and Tweedledum, a hookah-smoking caterpillar, a smiling Cheshire cat, and then the Tea Party, with the crazy Mad Hatter, the March Hare, the Slow Time, the Soldiers of Cards, and a Dormouse. Let's not forget the Red Queen, and all of that was just one big dream for Alice. I didn't understand what I just saw, but it's more haunting when I can't forget it. And I guess that's the goal. Disney gave us a taste of Carroll's psychedelic journey. Consider the film as part one of the story. We revisited the saga in Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland in 2010. But this time, we see a grown-up Alice played by Mia Wasikowska, living in the Victorian era where she's expected to behave and act like them, with their expectations, especially on not thinking too much and marry a guy she doesn't like. This stopped when she chased the White Rabbit again. She fell down the rabbit hole and went to Wonderland once again. With Burton's darker style, we got to see Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter, which I think it's one of his best roles. We got to see Helena Bonham Carter as the annoying Red Queen, the late Alan Rickman as the Blue Caterpillar, Absalom, and surprisingly Stephen Fry as the Cheshire Cat. Everything was dark because the Red Queen had taken over Wonderland, and it's been destined that a young woman will slay the monster Jabberwocky to save Wonderland. With the help of Absalom, Alice realized her dream in Wonderland when she was a girl was not a dream, connecting to the classic Disney animation. Alice's journey was just part of her destiny to become the woman that they all want her to be, by slaying the Jabberwocky and ending the Red Queen's reign. When she got back to her world, she reintroduced herself as a strong, independent woman. She rejected her marriage and the society's expectations before going on an adventure as an apprentice and future businesswoman. Tim Burton focused on a grown-up Alice to bring real emotional connection and some psychology to the story while keeping the classic nature of the story. What we learn is that society is expecting someone to do what must be done for formality and traditions in the Victorian era. What we learn from Tim Burton is that fitting in is overrated. You cannot live your life to please others. The choice must be yours. And Alice chose to write her own story with her next adventure. The only one who encouraged her to be who she is was her dad. whereas her mom and sister had to fall under society expectations. Alice's journey in Wonderland made her a strong, independent woman. She took her father's footsteps, establishing trade routes and setting off on an adventure as a businesswoman. Mia Wasikowska's portrayal of Alice was praised as a role model for girls. Tim Burton's version had a story that we can follow. It was the cornerstone of live-action fairy tales, receiving box office success of $1.08 billion, whereas the 1951 classic Disney was a disappointment on its release, receiving negative reviews from critics and audience. But 20 years later, it received much positive reviews, even with merchandise sales. Rotten Tomatoes gave the 1951 movie 84% approval rating, possibly because of the influence of psychedelics in the mid to late 60s. The initial negative criticism from the 1951 animation caused RKO Pictures and Disney not to continue the story of Alice. Maybe they had a sequel in mind, but they were unsuccessful delivering it. This was until Tim Burton stepped up to finish the 59-year gap of a story that led to Alice to become a role model for young girls. What I really enjoyed about Alice in Wonderland is the quotes brought to us. I mean, who wouldn't? Especially in such a world of curiosity.
If I had a world of my own, everything would be nonsense. Nothing would be what it is because everything would be what it isn't. And contrary-wise, what it is, it wouldn't be. And what it wouldn't be, it would. You see?